I believe that's all we have. We could jump to, we have the Beer Hall Pooch writes to Mark, you rightly call for real world activity. What are your thoughts on how much do you value agitprop on the streets? And this, Mark, goes along with the question that Marvik is asking over on Entropy. Thank you very much, the both of you. Writing, Mark, a British nationalist will always be able to appeal to white working class Brits. But how are we ever going to reach the middle class who will be important to win over if we want political power? So that with agitprop in the streets, Mark.
Well, for a start, the most important thing about politics now is tactics. The thing that doesn't work, there's two things which are largely sort of pointless. One of them isn't particularly harmful, but it's a little bit of a diversion. I'm not completely against it. The first that is pointless is these marches and big demos. Absolute waste of time. They were tried in the 1970s with the National Front, and it was called March and Grow. And what you actually had, the National Front had over 16,000 members. It really was a huge, huge party. And they had very many normal people, and their marches would attract, in some areas, over 10,000 people. Now, that's a phenomenal number of people on the streets. And these were people who would turn up. They were school teachers. Sometimes you'd have police officers, you'd have nurses, you would have people from all walks of life, and they would turn up smartly dressed. But the idea of this was, what they marched through a town, and we'll pick a random town or city. You know, they'd march through a city like, let's say, Coventry. And people would come out and they'd see the march and they'd be like, wow, that's impressive. Look at the flags, look at the well-dressed people. Oh, look, they're giving out leaflets. I'd like to join. And it was called March and Grow because they marched in an area, and then all of a sudden they'd get loads of inquiries. A branch or a group would spring up overnight. They'd have hundreds of members in the area, then they could then contest elections. But the left realized that this was an easy target. So the left then started attacking the marches. And then the police got involved. So eventually what you would have is you would have a National Front march, and all the normal people stopped going. So now it was just people who were looking for trouble, hooligans, skinhead types. And those people would then be flanked by police. And the other side of the police, there would be the left. So the public would never get near the march. All the public would see was a load of lefties chucking items over a line of police at a gang of skinheads and hooligans. And this wasn't then March and Grow, it was March and Shrink, because every time the National Front turned up in a town, that town was given very many good reasons why they wouldn't want the National Front coming back. But at the time, the prevailing idea was that if they kept doing it and didn't give in, the public would be like, wow, these guys never give in. But they should have just adopted better tactics. And the tactics of victory are either small stalls in town centres where you can meet people, small stalls that are not Sargon stalls that are pre-advertised so all the left can turn up, but 4 or 5 people turning up in a small area, handing out some leaflets and talking to people. If you want, you can do the banner drops. Now, the banner drops are the silly ones, like the generation identity, absolutely pointless navel-gazing crap, but it's harmless because it doesn't end in violence, but it's navel-gazing. No one cares that you put up your little weird symbol on a bridge. And also, they're rebranding themselves as the identitarian movement. Well, go and knock on someone's door and tell them that you're from the identitarians. It sounds like a cranky church. It sounds like, you know, you might... I'm from the Identitarian Church down the road. We're having a bake sale next week. Would you like? It's not a good name. It's not going to be saleable to normal people. It's a bad idea, but it's ultimately harmless. So I'm not going to chew them out too much. The best way is either the small stall in a town centre that is unannounced, guerrilla tactics. You turn up, you do your stall. There's no trouble. You leave. Okay, sensible leaflets, smartly dressed people, big smiles, no trouble. But the best thing is to do leaflets. Go out, and I have a plan for this. So people say, where are you going to get your leaflets from? I have a plan for this. Yeah, somebody's saying there, Sargon was pulled apart. Well, look, if this is what happens, if you announce where you're going to be, you don't get any more of your supporters. You don't get any normal people coming out to see you. You just get the left turn up. You can inform your supporters where you're going to be via Telegram, via secret groups. You can turn up unannounced. But if you announce your arrival, you won't get any more of your supporters, but your enemy will turn up. And at the moment, we're on the back foot, so it's guerrilla tactics. Always turn up unannounced. But the best thing is to go leafleting. Go putting out leaflets door to door. You will not be attacked, you will not be confronted, and you are directly taking your leaflets to the area you pick. And people have said, we need to target middle-class people. And we do. We need to target people from all walks of life, from all stratas of life. And one of the best ways to do that is leafleting. You pick a nice new estate. And we found this in the British National Party. You would sometimes go onto a sink estate and you'd get loads of people coming out and going, yeah, mate, yeah. And we thought, well, these places are going to be the places for us because everyone's very vocally supportive. But then we went to these nice new build estates and we started leafleting and we thought, well, we're probably not going to get a good reception here. Now, we didn't get people coming out and vocally going, yeah, we're voting for you. But they did all vote for us. And we were like, why is this? And at first we didn't understand it. But then we realized all of these people had moved to this nice new build estate to escape the sink estates, to escape the areas that had been culturally enriched. And all of a sudden we realized that these were like refugees. These were white refugees from multicultural areas that were saying, we don't want our lovely new built strata home estate to turn into what inner city Bradford became. And you can pick where you target with leafleting. It is a very low risk event. It is very easy. It's good exercise. And most of the day when you're leafleting, you can chat to the other people leafleting. It's quite social and in good weather. It's absolutely fantastic. But whatever you do, do it with a sensible name. Do it with a name that people can warm to, that people can understand. If you knock on somebody's door, as I said, and say, I'm from the local identitarian, as I say, they think you're from some cranky church or weird thing. Say, we're English nationalists. We're British patriots. People understand that. They know what you're talking to because you're not talking. It's why I describe us as ethno-nationalists here, but I would never call us ethno-nationalists to the public. When the term ethno-nationalist was coined in the British National Party, I remember when that term came into existence, I was actually against using it at the time, not because I didn't agree with it, but because I knew people would start putting it on leaflets. And when people put it on leaflets, the word ethno or ethnic is usually applied to an ethnic minority. So when you say to somebody on an estate somewhere, oh, we're the ethno-nationalists, ethnic, what does ethnic nationalist mean? Just say we're patriots. We're nationalists. We love our country. We're English nationalists. We're British nationalists. We're patriots. We're patriotic people. We're making sure that white people don't become a minority. Things like that work, but you have to talk the talk that normal people talk. You have to speak their language. If you start dressing and all these little intellectual, snotty 21-year-old skinny identitarians in their dark blue suits, who have claimed they've read 1,001 books and they're going to go out there and, spread all the wise teachings that they've read to people. It doesn't work like that. Normal people aren't interested in that kind of stuff. Normal people are interested in why their kid can't get a place at the local school. They're interested in the fact that their mum needed a hip operation, but she couldn't get it because all the beds were full. They're interested in things like when I went to collect my girlfriend from the hospital and pick my daughter up before we brought my daughter home for the first time, and I saw a Muslim man going to see his fifth child. He was there walking down the hospital corridor with 4 children already to visit his wife who had just given birth to his 5th. Now, that's something that normal people understand. That demographic shift is something you can explain to normal people. You have to talk their language. And if you're going in there, I remember seeing a National Front march in Lincolnshire. This is the last thing I'll say before I pass it over. A National Front march in Lincolnshire. And somebody was carrying a Confederate flag. And I just thought to myself, what? What are you doing? What relevance does that have to people in Lincolnshire. Now, people in Lincolnshire have all kinds of problems. They have huge problems with the EU, and specifically with farming regulations, because Lincolnshire, if you've ever been there, is as flat as a pancake. It is literally the flattest place on earth. You could never go anywhere more flat than Lincolnshire. The Lincolnshire Fens, you can see for as far as you can see, it's all fields. And my parents come from that area. I spent many summers with my grandparents there biking around. It's the best place to bike when you're a kid because it's completely flat. So you don't get to go down the hills, but you don't have to go up them either. So it's good, you know. But we spent, you know, summers biking around there, and all it is fields and farmland. And these people have a huge opposition to the EU. So if you're going out there to speak to people like that, to speak to normal people, you know, their concerns are going to be things that they relate to, that affect their day-to-day lives. And that's how you've got to approach it. But the NF marched into a town in Lincolnshire with a Confederate flag. Now, I've got nothing against the Confederate flag, but what did that mean to the people of Lincolnshire? What did that mean to the people of Lincolnshire who emphatically voted for Brexit? It was just as foreign to them as the EU flag. It was meaningless. You know, they probably, the last time they saw that was, you know, on the bonnet of the General Lee when they were watching, I forgot the name of the show now. I know the name of the car.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard, that's it. It's meaningless. And there's a, oh, no, isn't that the National Front? Why they got the Dukes of Hazzard flag there? What's that all about? You know, it's kind of like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's marketing 101 to present things, you know, and obviously if you're in the southern states, if you're in Louisiana, then, you know, fly the Confederate flag. You know, if you're in Louisiana, don't take a Union Jack because it will probably be completely meaningless. You know, you use the right tools for the job. You know, if you were going to fix somebody's pipe work, you'd probably take some washers, a wrench, some large nut sockets. You know, you wouldn't take some electrical cabling because that's what an electrician uses, not what a plumber uses. You take the right tools and the right equipment for the job. And nationalists have got a habit of taking the equipment that pleases them. And that equipment isn't always what the public needs. It's not always the best equipment for the job. And it's just about thinking smart and tooling ourselves up to appeal to the people we need to appeal to if we're going to gain real power. Does anyone else have any perspective on